Good afternoon and welcome to the Manitoba Arts Council Arts Leaders Speaker Series. I'm Tracy Longbottom, Program Consultant at MAC, and I will be your host today. We would like to start by acknowledging that we're on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene people, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We recognize privilege disparities. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Here at the Manitoba Arts Council, we are committed to an approach that respects and recognizes the distinct worldview and creative culture of Indigenous communities, while aiming to make Indigenous artistic expression a source of pride for all Manitobans. Welcome, everyone. This is the last of our series featuring 3 arts leaders from the IPOC community sharing their personal stories and journeys. Our esteemed guest speaker today is Allison Yearwood. The second half of our session will feature Martine Friesen from the Manitoba Arts Council, who will be presenting on the Supports Arts Leaders Program, which is our brand new program. The deadline is coming up very quickly, Monday, February 15th. So if you're interested in applying, start working on your applications now. And afterwards, we'll have a Q&A period. Any questions you may have for our speaker, Allison, or questions regarding the Supports Arts Leaders Program, please use the Zoom chat option to do so. So we have a lot to cover in the next hour, so let's get started. I'm very pleased to introduce our final speaker of our Arts Leader series, Allison Yearwood, who is presently Executive Director at Plugin ICA. Allison is originally from Manitoba and has done a lot of work within our province as well as beyond our borders. She recently returned to her hometown of Winnipeg from the Banff Center, where she was Program Manager at the Indigenous Arts Department. She has also worked as an Art and Business Manager at Yamanje Art in Australia, a programming and events coordinator at the Northern Life Museum and Cultural Center in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. And she was the first non-Indigenous staff member at Urban Shaman Gallery in Winnipeg. Allison advocates for racialized and disenfranchised groups to decolonize institutions of power from the ground up. She is exceptionally skilled on issues of equity and safe spaces and is a powerful voice for anti-racism action. So please, let's extend a warm Manitoba Arts Council welcome to Allison.
Hey, thank you so much, Tracy. That was so kind. And it's always so weird when you hear your introduction, because it's always like, oh my God, yeah, I did that. But like, oh my God, don't go on about it. So I just want to also say thank you everyone for coming in and spending your afternoon or your lunch hour and listening to me. I'm really, really excited to talk about how I kind of fell into my career. And I kind of use that term falling into my career because even though, yes, I'm very creative, was born, came out of the womb, like screaming, dancing, jumping, doing all the fun stuff. It wasn't like I was like born going, oh, I'm going to be like working in the arts. That wasn't, no. Actually, what I was born screaming was, I'm going to be a doctor. Like, because I mean, I'm a first gen Canadian. My mother is an immigrant from the West Indies. So of course she wants a successful child, right? Like she wants to be like able to promote and celebrate her offspring. I'm her only offspring and I'm a late in life baby. So like, there's so much like, oh, like Lion Kinging of it. So anyways, since I can remember, groomed for like success, gonna be a doctor, told everyone I was gonna be a doctor, get to about like high school age and like, oh, it's time to like get into like your skills to be a doctor. So like biology and physics. And then I was like, oh yeah, I don't like this. This isn't for me. Like, I'll have to cut someone open. Oh, hell to the nah. Like, I'm not cutting anyone open. Like, stay closed. I don't want to see in there. Like, so it was just kind of one of those moments of like, so what do you do if like the most successful job there is something that you don't want to do, right? So I kind of was like, okay, I'm really into fashion. I'm really into like being la-di-da. So I threw myself into like my last year of high school. I was like really going to be like, I'm going to be a fashion designer. So I got myself together. I researched all the top fashion schools, realized I priced myself out of Parsons, FIT, because there was no way I was spending $50,000 per year to get an education. Like, I'm like, nah. So England, oddly enough, had the same like level of like programs, but just not nearly as cost effective. So I ended up saying, okay, how do you go to university in the UK? You find out what UCAS is. PS, you find out what UCAS is if you really, like, aside, if you really do want to go to university in the UK, you actually have to research what UCAS is, because like they have like a whole, like, you don't go apply to the school you want to, you got to apply to like this weird board of people and they tell you you may go to these schools. It is like a trip. I don't get it. Even though I went through it, don't ask me 100% like what it is, because it's a bit weird. Anyways, go to university in the UK, get a fashion degree. What do you do then? Oh yeah, become a fashion designer. No. So I come back home to Winnipeg. I'm 21, I'm broke because yeah, we just went to the UK and paid for a fashion degree. So what do you do? What do you do when you're like, I don't know. I went back to school. So I went to the UW and I got a business admin and poli-sci degree because I got something solid. Like I got something that could pay the bills. All the while I was going to university, I was also doing makeup on the side at Mac. And through that, I started doing like weddings, started doing like film and doing like fun stuff. And then through the film folks, and if you're in Winnipeg and you're here, you know our film industry is like the bomb and lit, right? Like it's just lit. It's like every movie is about us. We are the people of the movies. So don't let Toronto fool you. Anyways, it was through like doing makeup, going on film sets that I was like, oh, there's like these cool art people. And like these art people have like events. And so I started going to like these cool art events in like the Exchange. And I started going to these shows. I started just hanging out, kind of seeing the community. I was really jiving with it. It was like, this is really cool. I was like, wow, you know, galleries, yeah, like they're cool. I don't know anything about them. I don't know how you call yourself an artist. Like there are these people who keep going, I'm an artist. And they put things on the wall and they write things and people go, yeah, it's important. And this is good stuff. And you know, and I was like, okay. And I'm having wine with them and we're hanging out. And then finally one day, I had no job. I was kind of like, meh, meh. And Steve Loft at Urban Shaman was like, hey, you know what? I think you should apply for our program coordinator position. And I was like, really? But like, I thought like your whole mandate and vision was like only Indigenous, you know, for Indigenous, by Indigenous, like, you know, I like love it. Like, yeah, like I don't want to touch your stuff. That's your stuff. And he was like, no, but other people need to know our stuff and other people need to like share our stuff. And like, you can't teach someone your enthusiasm or your passion. Like you show up to our shows, you show up to our artist talks, you're showing up, you're shutting up and we're talking to you. So I can't teach anyone to care like that, but you do. So I can teach you how to put the shows on the walls. I can teach you how to install the work. I can teach you how to edit like narrative. What I can't teach you is to care. What I can't teach you is to be respectful. What I can't teach you is that the minute you see an elder walk through the door, you've got a chair, you've got a cup of tea in your hand, you're ready. And it's like that I can't teach you. And you just come equipped with that. And it was that kind of relationship that like really just forged that beautiful time that I got to spend at Urban. And it really was a special time because it was like me just being able to learn Indigenous creative thought, learn like how Indigenous artists want to be spoken about, how they want their work to be treated. And really, if anyone asks me like, oh, I want to go work in the arts, well, just be really, really good at something that we in the arts need. And then we will build the roles around you. Trust and believe. Steve was like, okay, like her personality is the thing. The other stuff, we got to work with. We got to do some skill acquisition up in here. But that's what he saw. Like he saw the clay was there. It wasn't in a shape that we wanted it to be in. And so from there, I moved and I went into Banff, my first iteration at Banff, and I went through film and TV. So that way I'm learning different artists. I'm learning how to curate digitally. I'm learning different fabrications and methodologies. I'm working in an institution. I'm producing the work that's going to come through. So I'm learning a new skill set. I'm refining a new skill set. I'm not being beholden to, am I an admin worker? Am I an artist? I wasn't considering like the role, I was considering the work. And the work was what was so interesting. Being able to work with artists like Jason Begg and Nikki Little, and being able to like, watch Imaginative just like, do its great thing. Shout out to Nikki Little. Like seriously, it's just been such a great ride watching some of these artists that I feel like I started my career with, now watching them going, wow, look at them go. And I just want you to know, like the same people that I'm going, wow, look at them go, are just people. They're just like you and I. And it's the places that you will go that like you will like, but I feel like the only advice I can tell people is to be consistent, stay in the place. When the road gets a little untenable, stay, don't get lost, be brave, tell the truth, say sorry. I think that's one of the things I've learned in my career to do, is to acknowledge like, oh yeah, that we overshot that one, hey? And just taking that accountability to kind of go, overshoot, realign, reset, pivot, and forge on. And so we're going to forge on. So from the BAM Center, that being a termed and contract position, and PS, I do know that working as a BIPOC person in the arts means essentially you'll come in as a contract worker. There's very few spaces where we are actually permanent staff and start as permanent staff. So I know that anxiety of like, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? Oh my God, I'm on contract. And that was me in BAM. Like I was like, oh my God, I'm a work study. I'm not, this job is ending. And it was. So my advice to you, when you know your contract is about to end, you don't wait until it ends to see, oh gosh, I hope these folks are going to keep me on. What you do is you keep your journey going. You keep yourself going. If you need, you leverage what you got coming to you to the position going, oh, well, I didn't know what was going on, boo. So I got another job. So if you want me, I guess we need to talk about compensation. And those are the things that you need to start to do and lobby and advocate for yourself. So while I was at the BAM Center, and I knew like this was a termed position, so I already started putting my oar out there, and I ended up dropping into Toronto and working for the Collective of Black Artists. That is now dance in a dance school. So again, just keeping malleable. The skills of my administration and knowing how to run and knowing how to respond and knowing how to keep the organization and the organizational infrastructure is what COBA wanted. But I wanted to also learn, how do I run a dance school now? Like, how do I create curriculum? How do I work with teachers? How do I work in another modality of how arts in the community works? Because it's not just about the shapes of presentation, it's about arts arts education. It's about the audience. It's about all of these ways that art comes into the community. And never just think it's just the art on the walls. It's how does the art get into the walls? How does the art get discussed? How does the art get treated? Those are all supportive roles of art. Those are all important roles to art. And I think we need to start to celebrate all of the different pieces of getting to the piece, the show, the final fabrication. Instead of us just celebrating the one person, let's celebrate the journey, the story, the elders, the community, everything that goes in that work, everything that goes into that space, everything that goes into that artist should be celebrated. And don't be afraid to be hella good at what you do. And don't be afraid to let people stand back and go, damn, you're really good at that. Because when they do that, guess what? Your jobs are made for you. Your role is created for you. People will move out of the way because they want to get in your way, because they want to be around you. They want to know you. They want to be in your ether. So never be afraid to share. Never feel fearful that by letting someone know something that you're taking something away from yourself. I've never felt that way. I don't work with folks who are like, oh, let me hoard everything, let me have everything for me and my friends. No, it's been like, you take this. Hey, I want, the reason I'm here is because I want more people to be in this chair who look like me, who don't look like me, who intersect in a different way with the Black or Indigenous or other identities. I want there to be more. I want there to be more opportunities so that it isn't just the same 5 people saying the same 5 things. I want to hear more and more and more voices. All right, so we're in Toronto. I don't like Toronto. It just didn't jive with me. So I literally took a moment and I literally, this was like that critical, like in your 30s moment. And I was like, I don't like this job. I'm not happy. I don't want this. What do I want? And I literally said, like, what do I want? And I said, I want a job in the arts. I want something that feels good. I want to be celebrated. I want to feel like my work is doing something for the people that I'm working with. And so I said, that was when I was working with Indigenous folks. And I literally was going, and I want to travel. So I started putting my resume out to Australia and New Zealand and seeing what would happen there. And luckily, Yamaji Art, the Mar and the Wadjuri people over in Geraldton, Western Australia, shout out to those folks over there, actually were like, hey, we see that you've worked with Indigenous folks in Winnipeg at Urban. We see that you've worked with Indigenous digital media folks at BAM Center. We see that you're working in dance in Toronto. So can we see you? Can you do that stuff with us? And yeah, I trust and believe. I did not know the first thing about Aboriginal dot painting when I moved to Australia. I did not know. That was not my skill set. What my skill set was celebrating and making space for artists who are underrepresented. That was my skill set. And that's what I did. I took every opportunity I humanly could. I pushed myself. I mean, I pushed myself so hard that I did develop a little bit of a health condition. So, I mean, self-care, always remembering self-care. Don't become a workaholic. Something I will also say is ask for help. Don't be so like, I can do it all. And that is something I actually have to have my network tell me a lot of times. In fact, someone who's watching right now, Miss Jean McPherson, had to call me yesterday and say, I know you know how to do everything. And I know you know when you're strong. And I know you don't need my advice, but please take my advice and just take care. And sometimes, and you do need people who care for you and who are going to be brave enough to tell you the truth about you. And you need to be self-aware about yourself and to love yourself enough to hear that advice and to use it in a way that's just going to empower you and to make that person feel like, okay, yeah, I'm invested in your success. And I think that's something that I've really worked on, is that when people give me lots of offers of advice, is that I also make them now complicit in my success. Like, because you're offering me this good truth, because you're caring for me in a way, you're now involved in my success. And that's a relationship. And that's a relationship that if you're starting out, really care for those people in your networks, those people who are going to help you grow and catapult you into that next level. When I was in Yamaji and Geraldton, I had so many folks back here in Canada reaching out and supporting me. I was able to bring in networks from in Canada over to Australia. Like, it was one of the great teaching moments when Scott Benicina Bandon was helping some of the men in the community learn how to stretch frames. And so now they have their own ability to stretch their own frames for their own community. When I was working at Yamaji Art, I made sure that the grant that paid me went on for 3 more years. So now there's only an Indigenous person working in that role. So even though historically, when I came into my role at Yamaji Art, and it was historically never a person of Indigenous representation running an Aboriginal art center, it is now their only way is having an Indigenous person, because they were able to learn at their pace. I was working with the young community members. If they showed up, I was going to train them up. You want to learn how to install a show? I'll slow myself down and teach you how to install a show. Now you know how to install a show. Now that's on your resume. Now you can go around and tell people, yep, I know how to install a show. Now you have a skill that you can lobby and advocate and get into the space. Like, the best advice I can ever give someone is be so good they can't ignore you. So like, when you're just so good that they're like, ooh, I hate her, she's good at this. Like, you know, like, and I know there are people who are like, I don't like Allison, but does she get a job done? Yeah, she gets a job done. So because that's now my rep, because I'm consistent, because I show up, because I do the work. So we go from Yamaji Art all over there. We're doing great things, having the greatest time, having lots of success. And I think that is a time in my life when I was like, oh my God, things can only get better. My future's so bright, I can only wear shades. And so my mother, so I told you earlier, I'm an only child to a single parent. And she made a simple request. Can my only child not live halfway around the world from me? And I went, yeah, that's a simple request. And I've gotten enough skills now that I can go back to Canada and live closer to mom. So for the first time ever, I moved back. I did something I never have done. I worked without a plan. I just moved. I just came back home. I just came here, and I just thought, oh, I'm Allison Yearwood. They've seen the resume. The jobs will flow. So the life lesson in that moment was humility, and to not think you're the big kahuna, and to know how to be graceful, and to have a plan A, B, C, and maybe even D. And then to know when it's time to move. The reason that period of my life spans roughly 3 years is because I was so hard-headed. I was like, no, I'm not leaving. I'm gonna get what I want. No, I didn't get what I want. And I ended up going all the way to up north to Fort Smith, and which was lovely. And I think every Canadian should have to live up north, because it is an amazing part of our country that we are not treating and observing and loving in a way that we should. So everyone up north, it's the way. But from that, I got recruited. See? I got recruited. The BAM Center remembered, oh, remember that girl that like was here for like a minute? Oh, she's like done some stuff. So again, Jean, if I could say, has a baby. I come in for her maternity leave. I come in as the digital media manager. And then she comes back. I meet Renalta Arluk, who now is doing the year-round Indigenous programming at the BAM Center. We get on like a house on fire. She learns that when I was living up in Fort Smith, which is her hometown, I worked with her mother before I worked with her. Yeah, her mother taught me how to make dentilium earrings at the Northern Life Museum and Cultural Center. It was hilarious. It was like, yeah, she's like, don't we look the same? And I go, I don't think I can say that. then she was like, touche, touche. But anyways, we had a fabulous time, you know, doing so much work with the robust global Indigenous community there is, creating programs. It was the first time in my career where I actually had a leadership job within an institution. I know, institution. I know people of color are going to be like, no, but you know what? We can only stay in the grassroots for so long. If we really want to affect that change that we want to see, if we really want to make that difference that we're all clamoring and desperate for, we actually have to go into the institutions and then affect change of the institutions from within. So Renalta and I, her as an Indigenous woman, me as a Black woman in the BAM Center, just kind of, you know, sitting in meetings, you know, sometimes being the only racialized people in meetings, going, no, no, yeah, no, and just holding strong and just making space. And I want people to know, hold on to that, like hold on to what you believe in, because eventually people will see your truth and they will get it, and you won't have to always be creating the evidence of your truth. Like I'm so honored by the young folks doing the activism right now, because what you have provided all of us is that release of this constant proof of evidencing our existence. It's that I have to say has been tremendous, and many thank yous to the young folks going out there and protesting and doing that work, because you have illuminated so many people to stop making us evidence what we're saying. If we say it, it is the truth. Now can we deal with the problem? Thank you. So from the BAM Center, I get to have this opportunity back on Treaty 1, back on my home stomping ground. I come into plug-in, and now I get to do this work here, and I'm thrilled. I am excited. I am humbled, honored. I know it's COVID, so I don't want to be rude and be like, let's lay grand plans. But I do want to be honest and authentic and say, I am so eager and excited to like be back on my home territory, to rep for like the underrepresented, to change the institution, to work with the community to change the institution, to support other people who want to be in these spaces, and to make these spaces safe, to work with like Manitoba Arts Council and say, hey, you know, the structure needs to not be like this, but like that. And let's work together on stabilizing that a little bit, you know? Like I'm excited that we're in this gooey space, this unknown, dark, gooey space, because I think we're going to do some really excited work together. And there is a question I see in the chat. And if I could have some accessibility support in terms of, do I get to answer this question? Do I leave this question? What do I do? Help, please.
If you want, we can, if you feel like answering it now, please do so. But we do have a limited time. We're at our half-hour mark.
Okay.
So if you want to leave it till the end, you can answer it then, if that's okay, during our Q&A.
Sure, we can leave it to the end to the Q&A, sure. But thank you to the person who asked the question.
And thank you so much, Allison. So invigorating and insightful. Just love what you had to say. And we're so privileged that we're able to be with us here today. So thank you, Chi Miigwech.
Oh, thank you for having me. Oh, yeah, it's so weird talking about yourself, but I'm just really happy to share what I can and to just reach out and support where I can.
Great, awesome. So I'm now directing your attention to Martine Friesen, my colleague at MAC, who will present on the Support Arts Leaders Program via PowerPoint.
Hi, everyone. Yes, so I'm Martine Friesen. I'm a program consultant at MAC. So my part of the presentation is going to be to just give you a little overview of this program. And I'm going to maybe give you some ideas for how you can develop your project. And then I'm going to give you some basic tips on how to apply for this program. So for those of you who may not be aware, the Manitoba Arts Council is an arm's length agency of the government of Manitoba. And we fund the creation and sharing of arts and culture for the benefit of all Manitobans through a variety of grant programs. And one of those grants is our new Arts Leaders Grant. So really, I'm just going to go over the basic who, what, where, when, and why of the program. So who can apply for this program? Well, this grant is available for Indigenous, Black, and people of color who identify as either arts cultural professionals, Indigenous knowledge keepers, or emerging and established professional artists. And if you're unclear about what the difference is between an arts cultural professional and a professional artist, well, we have full descriptions of those designations in our general guidelines on the MAC website. And of course, with all of our programs, all applicants must reside in Manitoba. So this program, the Arts Leaders Grant, is a partnership with the Winnipeg Foundation, and it provides grants of up to a maximum of $35,000 per applicant for projects that develop an individual's leadership skills and that develop opportunities for senior leadership within the arts sector. So as I mentioned before, that although applicants to all of MAC's programs have to live in Manitoba, the project you propose can take place here in another province or even internationally. So the program is available now, and if you haven't started on your application, we encourage you to do so. You have until February 15th to apply. We'll be letting folks know if their application is approved or not by March 31st. And your project can be fairly lengthy in term. It can be up to 18 months in length. So it can be long-term or short-term. Why are we offering this grant? Our core values at MAC are equity, diversity, creativity, collaboration, and accountability. And like most arts organizations, we're looking at how we enact these values in our work and in our funding programs. We recognize that currently there is a lack of diversity in senior leadership positions in Manitoba's arts sector, and we want to help change that. So the broad goal of the Arts Leaders Program is to see BIPOC arts practitioners in senior leadership positions in the arts. So what kind of leadership opportunities are we talking about? Well, this is where you come in. You tell us, what is your vision of leadership? What would you need to become a senior leader in the arts? Do you need a mentor? Do you need training within an arts organization? Do you need education or classes of some kind? Or would you like to put together your own program of study? The Arts Leader Grant can be used for any combination of leadership development. So now I'm going to talk about how you might want to develop your idea. If you're an individual, maybe you start talking with leaders you respect. Find out how they got where they are today, just like Allison talked in her presentation today. Who helped them along the way? What do they wish they knew earlier in their careers? Think of goals that you would like to achieve and identify steps you need to take to reach those goals. If you are here today as a representative of an arts organization and you want to participate, we recommend you talk to your membership and your community. Let people know that you're interested in supporting arts leadership. But be sure to let the individual define their leadership goals. Think of ways that you can support them and work together to help them meet their goals. One thing to note is that the funding goes to the individual applicant, not to the organization. Organizations are not eligible to apply to the Arts Leader Program. We recognize that there will be benefits for the organization if they're participating, but the Arts Leaders Program is really about supporting the needs of the individual. To help you start thinking about potential projects, here's some examples. If you're thinking of a mentorship project, you might want to do a one-on-one with an elder or a leader you respect. Or you might want to do a series of short mentorships with artistic directors, festival producers, executive directors, facility managers, technical directors, or leaders of professional arts industry associations. If you're thinking about training or education, within an arts organization, you might want to think about doing an internship or job shadowing someone or a co-management role or a program lead. Or you can do formal education. You can take courses in management, finances, human resources, that kind of really nitty-gritty stuff. Or maybe you're thinking of doing a self-directed skill development. You can do a series of activities you put together yourself to help you achieve your leadership goals. You can do research, networking, interview national leaders, attend a variety of conferences, or any combination of the above. You tell us what you need. Now, in terms of what the Arts Leader Grant covers, it can cover living wages while you work on this project, childcare expenses, mentorship fees, registration fees and course expenses, technological expenses, or travel and accommodation for applicants and mentors. And if there are other project-related costs not on this list, talk to one of our program consultants to see if that cost would be eligible. Now, just a note on living wages, they vary based on where you live and your family makeup. There are a couple of websites that you can use as a guideline, and those will be included in copies of this presentation, which we will be distributing afterwards. So that is the program in a nutshell. The final part of my presentation covers the basics of how to apply. This actually applies to any of our MAC programs. So first, create a profile in our online application system. You can't start your application until you do that, so that's your first step. You will be asked to identify your applicant type, arts cultural professional, Indigenous knowledge keeper, or professional artist, and you'll need to upload a current resume, CV, or bio that talks about your work and study in the arts. You're going to want to create a profile as soon as possible. It can take a while for that to be approved in the system. Then you're going to want to probably talk to one of the program consultants. There are 4 of us who are here to support you through the application process, and we can discuss your project with you. We can review your budget, answer any questions that you might have. We can also review your application before you submit it to make sure you haven't missed anything. The lead consultant Arts Leaders Program is Tracy Longbottom, our host today, so feel free to reach out to her directly. Then after that, you're going to want to draft your application. So first, we really recommend reading through the program guidelines as well as MAC's general guidelines before you start writing your application. And in the guidelines for the program, you'll find a list of questions that the assessors will be using to make their decisions. You'll want to take those into consideration as well. And I'm going to talk about those in a little bit. So some of the information you're going to need to include in your application is a description of your vision of leadership, your background, influences, and previous activities that relate to this project. Of course, a description of your project, any letters of participation, acceptance, invitation, or registration from mentors or organization you'll be working with, and of course, a budget. Once you're done, you're going to submit your application. Now, we do recommend having a program consultant review your application before submitting, but once you've done that and you're all ready to go, you submit the application online through the MAC online application system at mac.smartsimple.ca, and you can access that on the homepage of the MAC website. Applications are due before 11:59 p.m. on February 15th, but we really recommend submitting during office hours, just in case you have any technical difficulties. And another thing to note, February 15th is Louis Riel Day. Our office will be closed, so you might want to try to submit, if you can, your application on February 12th, Friday, during business hours, and certainly you want to reach out for a consultation well before that. Okay, so you've submitted your application and now it's going to be assessed. All of the applications to any of our programs are reviewed by a peer assessment committee. In this case, your application will be reviewed by a committee composed of IBPOC artists and arts professionals from across Canada. They're going to assess your proposal based on its impact and feasibility as per the questions listed in the program guidelines. And once the assessment is complete, you will be notified by email on or before March 31st, 2021. Okay, so the last thing I want to cover quickly is the assessment questions, just so you have a sense of what to expect. So the assessors are going to respond to the following statements, giving a score of either 1 to 5, And that's how they derive a ranking for your application. So here are some of the questions, actually all the questions. The proposed project develops meaningful connections with the potential to generate future leadership opportunities. The proposed project will contribute to the applicant's development as a leader. The proposed project will benefit the artistic community in Manitoba. The applicant's previous experiences demonstrate a commitment to the arts and cultural sector. The applicant clearly expresses what leadership means to them, and the project identifies clear roles. Clarity is a really big, important part of your application. The participating mentor, organization, or institution is a good match for the applicant. The mentors, instructors, or partnering organizations have the capacity to provide this applicant with a meaningful learning experience, and the proposal reflects thorough research and planning. And the budget accurately acknowledges the likely costs and revenues of the project. And lastly, the applicant has the resources to complete the proposed project. So once the assessment is complete, and if you do receive a grant, you'll be asked to complete a funding agreement. We ask that you acknowledge the support of MAC and our partner, the Winnipeg Foundation, on any promo materials you produce. And at the end of your project, you have to submit a final report within 18 months of the award. But if you do not receive a grant, we suggest you go back and reread your application and then call a program consultant to get feedback from the assessors. The process, like all of our application program funding, is competitive, and unfortunately not everyone who applies will be funded. You may want to consider applying to other MAC programs. We have lots of funding streams and quite a number of other programs that might be applicable and appropriate for you to apply to for other projects. And the Arts Leader is part of our support stream. So that's it. If you have any further questions about the Arts Leaders or any of our other programs, you can contact our help desk team at any time. They are extremely knowledgeable and very friendly and always willing to help. That's it for today. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Martine. And thank you to everyone who has contributed your questions via Zoom chat. As Martine mentioned, if you would prefer to ask any questions outside of this session, please contact our help desk and they'll direct you to a program consultant. We also have a FAQ of the program, which is available on the MAC website in addition to the program guidelines. So as it is, we have, less than 15 minutes left. So we're going to start with some questions for our guest speaker. So I'll go ahead. These questions were sent to us prior to the session, but if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask via our Zoom chat, please do so for Allison. So I know you mentioned Steve Loft and was it Jean about people that had inspired you. So I'm wondering, are there any other mentors that you'd like to give a shout out to and acknowledge their strengths that they contributed to your journey?
Oh, absolutely. I'll shout out Charmaine Green. She was the chairperson and the elder in charge when I was at Yamaji Art, and just an amazing community organizer. Also just an amazing artist, writer. I was so honored and humbled when I got to watch her walk across the stage and receive the first ever PhD for Indigenous Studies at the Edith Cowan University in Australia. So you always got to celebrate another sister, like, who's just doing the work, right? Like, it's just, and she's a wonderful mother and auntie, and like keeps that community just moving and flowing. And I just always want to acknowledge like people doing that hard work, like not only taking care of themselves and watching their own personal success and growth, but also like taking care of the community and helping others, and always making sure, like, do people have food? Do people have shelter? Like, do people have what they need? Or is the community safe? Like, also, like, getting people organized as watchdogs to Australia's continual attempt to close Aboriginal communities on Australian and on Aboriginal land, which is completely disgusting and gross. And just so always like, if we can do anything, let's support our friends in Australia who are also dealing with the government wanting to close Aboriginal communities and have them forced into urban centers, which is just perverse and wrong. And so, like, let's just put a light on that if we can. I'd also just like to, I got to shout out Liz Barron. When I started out my career at Urban, she was there, and definitely I know she comes from like probably a more strong, like firmer model of kind of female leadership. And I know sometimes those can be so resistant, and we can kind of be like, we want female leaders to be so empathetic and soft and gooey and motherly. And it's like, no, sometimes female leaders come brass tacks, hard, gruff, and that's okay. That, like, you know what, your mentors are going to come in where they fit in. And sometimes your mentors, and I will just say this, sometimes your mentors are not the people who you will select. Sometimes your mentors are the people who your journey just needs. And sometimes you have to grow to meet your mentor. Like, sometimes you are actually not ready for your mentor. I can definitely say there have been opportunities in my life where there have been lessons waiting for me and folks giving me lessons, but because of my personality profile and their personality profile, I had to shake off my biases or shake off my desire to have everything the way I want things to be, and have it always served the way that I like it. Like, sometimes the truth that has to come to me isn't served the way I enjoy the truth. But it's still the truth, and I still need to have it. And I actually need it to come to me in that way, because even though those mentors who have offered me guidance, even when I begged them to keep it to themselves, they've taught me how to deal with folks I don't necessarily want to always vibrate with, and they give me actually a nicer opportunity to work with those people, because I actually want to work with them. So I'm actually engaged in trying to be like, okay, how am I going to work with you on this, even though I wish I could walk away. And it pushes you in that way. And sometimes it's those people who you look back with and you kind of go, dang, I kind of love you for like the fact that you stuck by me when I was such a brat, or I was so difficult to love, or I was so difficult to teach. Like, it was like, dang, I didn't deserve you. How did you put up with me? Like, and that is something that I hope, as I'm going on my journey and I'm moving forth, that I can do, and that I can stay resilient when I get the slings and arrows thrown at me, that I can be like, no, I'm loving you, regardless if you want it or not. So yeah, okay, sorry, I got totally off on that question.
Sounds like you're totally going to pay it forward and mentor some awesome people in the future also.
Please.
Is it possible to talk about unexpected roadblocks you experienced in your path? And do you know of any resources available today that you wish you could have been able to access at that time?
Yeah, I wish I could have accessed my humility. I wish I could have just said I needed help. There's so many places that actually offer help if you simply say, I need help. I think sometimes the biggest, and for me as a woman of color, it is really hard to sometimes ask for help because so many people are looking at me all the time. So I feel like if I say, oh, I'm overwhelmed, like this is too much for me, I need some support, like it sometimes feels like I don't know if I'm allowed to do that because so many people are looking at me to do something. So it's sometimes giving myself the permission and giving yourself the permission to go, oh no, just because you're leading doesn't mean you can't get some help and get people to lean in and kind of go, oh no, my back is breaking over here. Can someone help me? Because the amount of times I've just turned around in my career and just gone, oh my God, can someone just take this? And they've gone, yeah, actually, I've been waiting for you to ask, but I didn't want to like jump in because I didn't want you to yell at me for like thinking you didn't know how you had it all done and you know what you're doing. But like, yeah, I've been watching you kind of suffer and it's been kind of painful, like, you know, so I think sometimes just be like not letting yourself suffer. Like the suffering is also hard for people to watch because sometimes everyone knows you've got a problem and everyone wants to help you. But because you don't say it first, no one's going to come in and help you. And sometimes just going, yeah, I need to sit down. I need to tap out is the best thing to do. And tapping out is okay. Tapping out is okay. I think sometimes we need to remind ourselves as strong women that tapping out is okay. It's okay. It's okay to say, this is too much. It's okay to say, I would love to help you, but right now my plate's too full. Can I offer this other person? Can I introduce you to this person? I think that's what I'm learning right now is to go, ooh, I can't keep talking on this mic, but may I introduce you to some other lovely people who would love to have some time on the mic? You know, and I think being able to say that quicker is something I'm going to say is a roadblock, because sometimes I think we hog the mic fearing the mic will never be returned to us. So I would say, let the mic go. It'll come back. Trust and believe it comes back.
Oh, that's so awesome. I don't think we have time for any other questions. So I just want to thank everyone who is able to join us for today, especially those of you who have attended all 3 of our Arts Leader Speakers series. You're getting Big Mac points for being with us the entire 3 sessions. And we especially want to extend a warm thank you to you, Allison, for being our guest speaker today. It was awesome listening to you. And we want to also thank our other guest speakers of the Arts Leader Series, Alan Gray Eyes and Alexa McKinnon. And we just want to give a huge shout out to our MAC communications staff, Elise and Graham, who worked hard behind the scenes to make this all happen and so seamlessly. Thank you. And to my fellow program consultants, Kathleen Enns, Cheryl Mickey, and Martine Friesen for your PowerPoint presentation on the support arts leaders. So hope we have a whole bunch of people lined up with their applications ready for Louis Riel Week coming up. So we've also recorded this session and it will be available on our MAC Facebook and YouTube pages. So please feel free to review and share. So thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Bye.